Oh, thank you, and thank you all for being here with us this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Stacy, would you lead us? To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, agenda changes. Does any of the board have any recommended agenda changes? And Mike will be, I think he's joining. Okay, with no changes to the agenda, we will move to the business portion of the meeting. Public hearing on 2024-2025 budget. Any person may participate in the hearing and be heard for or against any part of the North Kitsap School District budget, the four-year budget plan, or any proposed changes to uses of enrichment funding under RCW 28.505.240. The public hearing is for public to comment only on the 2024-2025 budget, and comments are required to be related to being for or against any part of the budget, the four-year budget plan, or funding under RCW 28.505.240. Please note that all other public comments unrelated to the budget will be heard during the regular meeting agenda's public comment periods. Each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes for comments. Up to 30 minutes is allowed for public comments, or a maximum of 10 speakers. I will turn the hearing over to Rachel Davenport and staff to begin.
Thank you, Brianne. Staff is already standing up.
Staff got a little
Yes,
up
thank
here
you.
early.
Mike Merlin is here to present.
Do I need to turn this on? Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the time to present and a little bit on the budget, and also answer the questions you might have that come up from the presentation. So, first thing I would say is that annually, all school districts around the state prepare budgets. I want to thank the staff, the HR department, the buildings for their role, the department managers, everybody for doing their best and trying to help make sure that we make the timelines. The ESD always helps me as well as I push the buttons technically to make this happen. So I appreciate the support that we get from ESD 114 as well. Tonight, you're not adopting the budget. This is just kind of a presentation, give you an opportunity to look, give the community a presentation, an opportunity to ask questions. And then when we come back to the meeting, I think it's August 22nd, what you actually will do at that point in time is approve a resolution that authorizes expenditure levels for each of the funds that we have in the district. It authorizes the F195F, which is the four-year outlook that we have. And any transfers we make between funds, it does that, and I think there's also a certification that we're spending all of our MSOC money, which is basic education, material supplies, and operational cost money, on MSOCs and not on salaries. So it's a variety of things that we'll do. When I came last year, I walked into the district had already started to put some processes in place to try to make sure that the budget was balanced. And it really was looking at non-renewing staff or through attrition taking care of trying to balance the budget. And as we built the budget for 23-24 a year ago, being new, it was kind of like, okay, trying to figure things out. How do we think this is going to look? We budgeted at that time a budget to reduce the fund balance by, I think it was a couple $1 million or thereabouts, and had some concern that we would need to make additional cuts this year. As we got into this school year, it turned out that the numbers of reductions and things that sometimes you can have things go your way, sometimes you have things not go your way. We had a lot of real positive things that occurred this year that have allowed us to balance the budget in, we'll end up the year in 23-24 breaking even, maybe even adding a little to the fund balance. And in 24-25, the budget is a break-even budget, and that was the goal, was that we would bring a budget forward in 24-25 that was a balanced budget. So I'm gonna just go through a few things that you'll see in the budget. I've shared, we have to share by the 10th of July, budget with the ESD. We put a budget out on the website so everybody has an opportunity to see what's in the budget, and the F-195 app provided it with you. And then we've also had a couple meetings and provided some further documents. I'm just gonna kind of talk through the bullet points. Enrollment estimates, down 28 from the 23-24 budget, and down 44 from actual enrollment. So we're pretty flat enrollment wise. We're not seeing significant declines. We have initiated, really as part of the Facilities Advisory Committee, a new, kind of additional renewed demographic analysis of where we look for the next several years, and we'll talk a little bit about it on the F-195F. But we're kind of in a flat enrollment to a little bit of a decline for the next few years. The demographers right now predict that still 5 to 10 years out that we should grow some, not huge, but a little bit, but we're really relatively flat. The second bullet talks about impact aid. Impact aid was something that was new to me, and like enrollment declines, what we saw from the federal government was because of COVID, they allowed school districts with impact aid money to freeze the numbers that they were being funded for based upon pre-COVID applications through the impact aid process. So we were kind of artificially kept at that level for like 21, 22, 22, 23. When we got to 23, 24, I'm new to the district. One of the things that went our way was that we have a spreadsheet, we knew the numbers of kids, we plugged in the numbers, assumed this is the amount of money we're gonna receive in 23, 24. Then you start receiving the money throughout the year, and we receive money, we started receiving more money than what I expected. Well, when you're in a situation where your amount of money that you would be able to collect through the counts declines by more than 20% in 1 year, the federal government puts you in a hold harmless status. So for this school year, we received 90% of what we would otherwise have received, 90% of what that high point was back in 22, 23, which was significantly higher than what we had budgeted in the 23, 24 budget. So this next year, we'll see a little decline. We receive 85% of that hold harmless number. That will ultimately drop to 80% after year 3 before it goes to the actual number. So it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to kind of glide into that reduction. And I think I said here, 85%, 500,000 from 22, 23. So it's coming down, but it's not coming down as rapidly as it would have. Inflation increases in unemployed salary costs continue to impact insurance premium increase. Our insurance increase is about 15%, which we've been about 15%. Am I doing that? Changing? Oh, sorry. I'm just not checking it. So we've seen some significant MSOC increases. The legislature in the budget this year did make an adjustment and provide some further increases in MSOCs, but you'll see a little further into the report that we're still spending well more than what we receive in MSOC dollars. So that helped us. There were some legislative things that helped us in the prototypical school funding account amounts, where they funded some additional staff for social workers, for counselors, for nurses, and things like that. So there were some dollars from the state that helped us also. We only had one open contract in the summer of 24, that was with the NK CASA group, the classified group that's unionized administrators, and we settled with them. I don't know that everything's signed, but we're done with that, which is a good thing. And this budget also maintains the board policy of a 5 to 7% reserve. I wanted to make sure you knew that the state funded 3.7% salary increases for the district employees, and I think the note that you see below that is they fund a 3.7% salary increase only for state funded positions. So we have non-state funded positions as well as state funded positions, so we really don't receive funding from that. That's really where local levy money comes in and helps us out in that situation. Last year, again, one of the first things that Superintendent Davenport and I and others had the great opportunity to do was to negotiate 7 different contracts with various union groups in the district, which we did successfully. And so, depending upon the union group, everything obviously is budgeted for whatever increases we had. So the state funded us 3.7%, but I think there's probably certain positions that will receive a little larger than that are represented in union groups than the 3.7%, but the bulk of the employees received a 3.7% salary increase. Budget balancing methods, continued combination of retirements and staff resignations, and then reduction of MSOC. As I mentioned, we did receive some additional state funding from the legislature, and just being real strategic. I think the reason that we successfully are able to balance the budget this year is because of the work that has kind of gone on previously that has allowed us to put us in this position where we're at. So, that's a lot of talking. The actual numbers, if you're just pulling out the beginning fund balance, ending fund balance, revenues and expenditures, we're a little off in our lineup here. It doesn't look real smooth, but the numbers are all the numbers. So we're planning on beginning the school year 24-25 with about a $12 million beginning fund balance, approximately 111.7 million on 111.6 million in expenditures. So we've got a balanced budget and ending balance of 12.1 million, and you can see some of the ending balances where we expect them to be. The big one is making sure that we are identifying the fact that we're meeting the fund balance policy of the board. The 7.5 million is over the 7% that's required. So we're right at the top end, a little over the top end of what is in our board policy. Some of the other things that are important to note, in my mind, taxpayers are always interested in what is the tax rate. That's been my experience in education. So this kind of gives you a chart that shows from 22 through what the estimated amount is for 25, what those rates will be, both for the 2 levies that we have, the existing EP&O and the capital projects levies. And then you can see 24 is what we are currently paying, the $2.31 combined. 25, you see the reduction in the capital levy, and we'll talk about capital levy later in the meeting too. But when the district passed the 22 capital levy, as we've talked many times, the levy was set at a higher amount in 23 and 24, and then dropped in 25 and 26 with the idea that a bond or a capital levy would be run that would make the difference and allow for more projects. That bond failed in February of 24, so you do have a resolution in front of you for later in the meeting that would potentially run a capital levy that could impact the capital projects levy rate, that 35 cents that you see. But you cannot budget for something that hasn't occurred. First of all, we don't know whether we're running it, A, and B, we don't know whether it will pass. So you see what the rate will look like if we don't have that, if it doesn't occur or if it doesn't pass. Enrollment in the district, this is just to kind of illustrate to you the kind of last few years where we've been, where we're at. From the top end in 21-22 of 5,394, it's about 2.8% down as an estimate for 24-25. These numbers are total numbers, so they include every student in the district, and also includes Running Start. We have seen in the last couple of years the Running Start number increase a little bit to the point that it's over 300. So it does, if you take that, there are kids, they're part of our enrollment, they're part of the calculation for how we collect levy funds, but they're not day by day, full-time in our program, so we're a little less than 5,000 kids when you don't back them out, but if you did back them out. And as I mentioned earlier, the demographer does show a decline for the next 4 years with then a slight uptick. And we're very interested in seeing what those numbers look like as we move forward with this October's count. And I guess the one thing I would say is probably the more troubling, I don't know if it's troubling, it's just factual. The kindergarten numbers continue to just kind of flatten out and decline. So it's gonna be interesting to see this fall what our kindergarten numbers look like, because obviously kindergarten generates first graders, second, it goes from that. So we'll see how that goes. FTE, you can see for the last 3 years what we've had in FTE. And you can see a decline from 22-23 to 23-24, and then again from 23-24 to 24-25 of both of certificated staff. Classified staff has actually increased over that time frame. And the certificated staff is primarily, as I mentioned, the reductions that were made kind of preemptively, as well as now as enrollment has continued to decline. Certainly we have staff loads in the contracts that we negotiate, so we make sure that we're meeting all of our class size limits with the staff that we have. There haven't been any RIFs or anything like that. It's just primarily just, okay, if someone retires, is that a position that based on the numbers we need to retire or we need to replace, or is there room to make that happen? So again, you see a little bit of a decline for certificated staff in 24-25. On the classified side, the increases are primarily within paraprofessionals and bus drivers, honestly. The paraprofessionals, I think it's kind of, there's 2 reasons for that. Most of that is within the special education program. We had a hard time for a period of time finding folks to apply for para positions, so we contracted out for a few to more than a few of those over the last few years. As we've been able to attract more people to come in and apply to work for the school district, we've been able to reduce the contracted paras, which we want to do because it's a better, it's just a better arrangement for the employee, it's a better arrangement for the school district when they work for us rather than when they work for a contractor. The other thing is, when you have special needs students, you kind of build a budget based on what you think you're gonna have at the beginning of the year. And then as the needs of the kids, they're always different. The IEP drives out. Sometimes throughout the year you add more staff to help support those kids. And then when we budget for those kids, we budget for those kids, and when we budget for those staff members, they maybe only work part of the year, but we budget for them for a full year, even just to make sure, because they may come back and they may work for, so that it's a little bit inflated that way also. On the bus driver side, we don't contract for bus drivers. We just have had the ability at the end of the year to hire a few drivers. And this last school year, there were a number of cancellations of routes in the spring. One of the things that we did that was great was allow for the ability for drivers to do more extracurricular trips, which again is good because we're not contracting out for that, we're doing it for our own staff, it's good. Doing that and then having issues with just illnesses, people come and go a little bit, but we've been able to stabilize the workforce and added a few, got them through the training, hired some in the spring. So we're probably starting a little higher than where we've been. Real fortunate to have Ryan Solcherberger as the new director of transportation, doing a great job. And they all are doing a great job, but I want to mention him. This 4-year outlook, so you see some bullets within this, and you've got the documents. We have to do a 4-year projection of enrollment and a 4-year projection of expenditures and revenues, which is challenging because we often don't know in January what type of revenue we're gonna have for the following September. But the legislature put this in place so that from their perspective, they had better sense of what might be happening to school districts. I don't know that they're really learning a lot from the report, particularly based upon what we've seen around the state here this year with a lot of school districts. If you went back 3 or 4 years, my guess is the F-195Fs in those districts would have shown what's actually happening right now. So for ours, we are projecting enrollment to decline over the next 4 years. Revenue up 3%, expenditures approximately 2.5%. And I mentioned to keep expenditure increases to 2.5% annually, there will need to be expenditure reductions. I think I say that because typically benefit costs and salary costs tend to outpace that. But within a 1-year cycle, we can always stay ahead of that and be ahead of it to try to make sure that we're addressing that as it goes and having conversations with you and with the community as we need to do that. I mentioned beginning in 24-25 budgeted revenues will exceed budgeted expenditures. That is what you see in the budget. And then we will continue to achieve the board policy established of 5 to 7% minimum fund balance. So we have we know what the conditions are that we work in, and it's our job to stay ahead of problems and inform folks and make sure that they don't come to fruition. I mentioned the MSOC disclosure. For basic education, you can see that we're receiving about 7.3 million in MSOCs. I think we got an increase of like 150,000. It wasn't significant. The increase on our insurance was more than the amount of money, the new money that we got. That's one way to look at it. Budgeted expenditures for basic ed, alternative ed, and district support. What district support is, basic education, it encompasses within the budget certain programs. Basic ed program 01, alternative ed program 02, program 97, which is district-wide support. So it's your maintenance folks, it's your IT, it's your district office staff, it's the board directors, it's the business office, things like that. You can see that the budgeted number that we have to offset that 7.3 million is about 12.3 million. So we're spending, way to look at it is our levy is funding $5 million of the cost to run basic education types of support programs. So when you know, the McCleary case came through and said the state needed to fund basic education, they immediately admitted we're not funding basic education because they said you can spend local money on salaries. We're clearly spending local money here. They basically just redefined basic education to say whatever we fund is basic education. You can go beyond that if you choose to. That's probably the biggest distinction of what they did at that time. Looks a little bit like, it looks a lot better on my computer than it does on the screen in terms of being lined up. But the other thing that you have in the budget are the other funds that we have. So the ASB fund is the Associated Student Body Fund, which is all driven by the students in the district. The student councils build budgets, the buildings work with them, they submit to us. You approve the expenditure amount, but we really don't direct what they do. So we're beginning with 460,000, ending with around 430. It's about $1 million program, our ASB program. If you navigate those numbers, they don't line up real well, but $1,040,000 is the number for ASB. Capital Projects Fund, we're budgeting for 18 million. I doubt we'll spend that. We try to build enough in expenditures so that we can cover most of what we want. The primary expenditures we're completing in the 24-25 school year. You see the Suquamish Gym coming out of the ground, so that will go into the fall. I think you have approval of a bid on the agenda for Wolfley's Gym. That will probably start here before school starts, my guess. With breaking ground, there'll probably be a similar event to what we had at Suquamish, which was great. And then Poulsbo Middle School will open at some point around the beginning of the school year. So it's the completion of that, because there'll still be expenditures that ride out into the school year. That's the majority of it. There aren't any expenditures in this budget related to the capital levy resolution that you'll see, again, because we haven't passed it. So there's a chance that we could need to do a budget extension in capital, and the budget extension is, if we're gonna spend more than what you had authorized, we need to have the board approve an extension before we do that. I don't really, I mean, it could happen, because if we were to pass a capital levy, there would be projects occurring next summer, so that could put pressure on that $18.8 million number. The debt service fund is the fund, if a district passes a bond, if they have outstanding bonds and bond principal and interest payments, you pay those out of the debt service fund. So we just have a little bit of money, we invest it, we gain a little bit of investment earnings every year, we don't have any outstanding bonds, there's no payments, so all we do basically here is just show 1 year to the next what investment earnings that we received on the little bit of money we have as we move forward year to year. And then the final, budget is the transportation vehicle fund budget, and this budget is, for the sole purpose of buying buses, buying school buses. And the way that the state system works is, the district has to pay the money up front for a bus, then the state provides depreciation money, so that at the end of 13 years for a big bus, or 8 years for a special ed bus, if we haven't spent the money on contracts or some other way to pay off buses, the money is there then to replace those buses. So we've got money budgeted here. I think we'll probably buy 4 or 5 buses this next year. We'll probably put orders in. We've got, I think, 5 showing up in November. And the fleet's in pretty good shape. I think the fleet's in pretty good shape, so that's a good thing. So, those are all of the budgets. There's a lot of information in that F-195, and I could go on for hours. I don't believe you want me to, and I can promise you I don't want to. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll turn it back over to whoever.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
So on the, statement under the budget where we, increased salaries 3.7, and I know that teachers are part of that, but are the classified administrators and principals all funded at 3.7?
Anybody that's like a state-funded position, which then basically that means everybody, right? So you've got, yes, the answer is
So
yes.
they're all getting that 3.7?
That's the 3.7 for if you're special ed, if you're an administrator, classified, certificated staff, they fund all of the units.
It's a minimum of 3.7 for a couple of reasons. On, our certificated, NKEA, salary schedule, collapsed, so, the last open bargain we had with them, we took what was taking our staff 30 years to get to in our surrounding districts, it was taking them 15 years to get to that top salary schedule, and so part of the last, full open bargain, we collapsed that, and so each year, a few of those years come down and collapse another 5 years, so people that may have been at like year 22, 23, they're now collapsing down to year 15, so, folks that, it might have taken 7 more years to get to that bottom right on the salary schedule are now there, and so.
And so they'll get a little more of an increase?
Some of those may, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I did have that question. So, on the part of the budget where it talks about the ASB funds, and the clubs section is spending $60,000 more than they're bringing in, I'm wondering, what do the clubs spend their money, that much money on?
I think Craig's here to answer that question. You know, they've got clubs, so the way that it works is typically, I don't know about here, but like ASB cards, there's money that comes in for ASB cards. The council then has the ability to kind of drive money out to clubs if they choose to do that. I think whatever they're spending in the club is probably supporting whatever it is. There's probably a band club or there.
If there's a, like, you know, if there's a debate club or something like that, and they're gonna go on a trip, it would be them, they would come to the ASB and they would propose to the ASB, hey, we have this trip, we would like a little bit of additional funding, we can only fundraise this much. Can the ASB sponsor the rest of the trip? And so that, I mean, that's just, I mean, it's one example of lots of different clubs, but that would be a way that that money is spent.
It looks like they're spending more than they're bringing in.
Yeah.
And they would then, that's like Rachel saying, they would ask the ASB, council, okay, we've we're gonna take a $5,000 trip, we've raised 3,000, we're 2,000 short. Would the general student body, through the council, authorize a transfer from the student body, a general student body account to help support our club? Or maybe they budgeted for it that way, knowing that they think they'll be able to get a donation or a fundraiser done, but they didn't know and they didn't build it into the budget.
So is that sort of accounted for though, on the general student body activities, looks to be, excess revenue for that reason, right? So you can have that opportunity to sort of transfer those between the line items there.
So yeah, when you look at that top, you've got $266,000 worth of expenditures and $303,000 worth of revenue, that would be.
Leaves us room to transfer those between the
Right.
line items for the clubs and the different activities if they're unable to meet those fundraising goals or what have you.
Okay, so this is not something that the district is supporting? and-
No,
and-
it's all, no, the district doesn't support.
So I just have one other question. I thought I read where we're hopeful that the middle school will be open by the end of October. Is that correct? Is
I
that
don't know the
goal?
final date, but I know it's not gonna start the first day of school, it won't be ready.
But before Christmas break?
That would be our sincere hope.
Yeah, I don't think that it's gonna go that late, at all, yeah.
Okay.
So if you'd heard end of October, I would go with that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Stacy, Ed, do you have
Yeah, I have just a question on the ESP, if we can revisit that for just a second. Who is it that actually disperses those funds and manages those funds? It makes the call on, if somebody needs a little extra money for their field trip and they've only raised $3/4.
So you have the structure, or maybe Rachel would be.
No,
able to-
well, Craig
prob-
popped right up.
I'll
Yeah,
try
it's
it out.
ASB.
Did
Yeah,
Craig
it's
pop up?
ASB.
I'll try it out.
Yes.
I'll try to help. So, ASB funds are managed by the students. While principals oversee it, they don't direct it. They have a constitution and bylaws that slightly different by each school about what processes they go through. But they receive the revenue, whether it be through fundraisers, through ASB cards. The athletic fees for high schools go into there. And then through their processes, they distribute that money to the clubs, to the athletic teams, and their advisors, along with the ASB advisor at each building and the principals, sign off on all of their plans, and all of the projected activities that they may plan to do. If they come and have to change those because some wonderful opportunity showed up, then they have to go back to that ASB board and request additional funds or different uses of those funds. So having done it many years ago, you have to kind of be a real good predictor, so that you have the capacity to raise money, but also the capacity to spend the money. Sometimes we get new advisors and they have to learn that the hard way, but for the most part, our ASB advisors and bookkeepers do a great job of keeping the activities running.
So are these funds managed at a district level or are they individual schools?
So it's both. We do have a person in the business office that oversees the ASB funds in general, but there is a bookkeeper at each school or someone who manages the books at each school that monitors all of the revenue coming in and all the expenditures going out.
Okay. Excellent, thank you.
Mike, I don't know, who's on. Oh, did you go first? Well, and Mike, I just, wanna thank you and the team for all your work on this. I mean, this is a huge, huge lift, and like you said, that F-195 it is a lengthy document, 200 and some pages, and, the fact that, you spend time with us to make sure that you make it very digestible for the board, and that is very much appreciated, meeting with us, answering the questions. And this was a great presentation, and we really thank you for all the work, because again, it is a really, really big lift, and it's, an
If I could add something to that, please. I've been working with, Tacoma Public Schools for the last couple of years, in their CTE programs, as a consultant, and, I can tell you to see this budget, the fact that we are basically revenue neutral, I'll tell you that I think Tacoma would be very much like to be in that position right now.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and I think Mike spoke to it, and I know, the planning that went into this, this wasn't just something this year, this has been, for several years, planning, knowing that this would be the position that we're in, and the fact that we're able to balance the budget, and, is really fantastic, so thank you. All right, so no further questions from the board. We will now hear public comment regarding the budget. All speakers will be asked to confirm that their comments are regarding the budget prior to starting their comment. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes maximum. In-person comments will take place at the podium. Anyone commenting via Zoom must turn on their camera to make public comments. And it looks like right now we have one person, Stacy Schmeckel, who will be presenting in person.
Good evening. I'm thankful to be a new member of the Finance Committee. I want you to know that the application website to the Finance Committee have not worked since at least March. I shared that with the interim superintendent and finance director. So our committee has, I believe, 8 members. None have students in the district, and almost half don't live in North Kitsap School District. We met in May as a meet and greet and did not go over any financials. They were promised at the June meeting that never occurred because the date discussed, there was no date promise, became the community meeting at Kingston High School for the Facilities Committee. So we met this Tuesday, about 48 hours ago, to ask questions. I was told, quote, there can be many roles for the Finance Committee, but a role of the committee is not to approve the budget. That is the school board's role. A role of the committee is to review the work and make any recommendations to the school board prior to their approval. Meeting on the 23rd will allow for this to occur, end quote. And I agree with those statements. But we never went through the FY 95 or voted if we recommended it. Mind you, we only had 2 staff members and 3 community members present. I have concerns about the budget, but said it is not the Finance Committee's role to approve it. I am left with the hope that you might have some of the same concerns I have with the budget and resolve them. My only questions for tonight were, where will the budget account for the $40,000 a month from the OASD wrench and bridal blade? Although I think Mike's kind of addressed that we can't put that in the budget yet. And where's the rental money from the other tenants at Bridal Blade? And the rental houses on Slippery Pig? I did ask Mike about that before the meeting, but I've not heard you as a board discuss that. I'm grateful for the nearly 6% increase in revenue despite having an anticipated drop in student enrollment of about 25 students. Can you, as a board, share what you as a board will be adding to enrich the educational growth and opportunities of students in our Kitsap School District? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will now move into public comments. 5.1, the North Kitsap School District Board of Directors welcomes the public to this open public meeting. In accordance with board policy and state law, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner, which means we all must follow the same standard of civility during board meetings. We value public comments. If you would like to speak to potential items on the agenda, you may sign up to speak during the sign-up sheets that are included on the meeting agenda and on the school district's website. Both virtual and in-person attendees may sign up for public comment. The board sets aside a maximum of 2 30-minute public comment periods per meeting. Speakers wishing to comment on agenda items will be prioritized in the first public comment period to allow for the board to hear comments prior to board action or consideration. Individual speakers will have 3 minutes for their comments. Speakers may not donate some or all of their time to another speaker, and the person who signed up to comment should be the same person who addresses the board. No speaker may speak more than once per meeting, even if there is time remaining. Though the board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during the public comment period, the board may ask district staff to contact a speaker at a later time to follow up on an issue raised during the public comment period. When it is your turn to speak, please approach the podium if you are in person. If you are commenting via Zoom, you will be promoted to panelist on Zoom. You must then turn on your video and microphone to make public comment. Finally, please remember, your words have impact. We value our community's feedback and we welcome your comments. Thank you. And it looks like we have 3 people signed up. And I believe they're all in person. Okay. So our first person tonight that we'll hear from is Kim Gerlach.
Good evening. I hope Mr. Desmond is still on Zoom. On June 28th, I sent him a letter asking for clarification of a comment he made during the March 14th, 2024 meeting. I'll quote the comment here. That in the last report, Wolfley Elementary was recommended by the firm for replacement. He then went on to say, there are some communications within the community. You know, some of the committees that you know basically said that Wolfley was in good condition. Really, what they were pointing to was an ICOS screenshot. ICOS is the program that the state uses to track our building condition assessment scores. They were really only pointing to one system within that entire building, so I think that was very misleading. I'm going to now quote what I said in the email. I am unaware of any committees other than the opposition committee I was on who referenced ICOS reports. Can I assume you were referring to me in your comment? If so, there's a misunderstanding. I don't recall pointing out just one system. If I did, will you please let me know what system and where I was wrong? I will be happy to publicly correct my comment. I just need to know what it was. I do remember pointing out that the building is structurally sound as per ICOS. Is this incorrect? If so, will you please show me the information that shows the building is not structurally sound? In your reply to me, Mr. Desmond, you said that I should contact Mike Merlino. He should be able to provide me with the additional requested information. I'm disappointed that you have asked someone else to clarify your comments. Someone who didn't live in North Kitsap School District, who wasn't on the bond preparation committee, and certainly wasn't a member of the board of directors, of which you were all 3. I did forward the emails to Mike Merlino, who is currently in charge of not only the budget for the next school year, but also the upcoming levy. He's responded saying that he'll get back to me ASAP. My record requests for both ICOS and Saison Engineering condition assessment reports show Wolfley does not need to be replaced. If you believe Wolfley needs to be replaced, and you must, or you wouldn't have made that comment, I don't understand why you will not make that information public, and I certainly don't understand how tonight, under the consent agenda, with no conversation, 3 of you who supported that last bond, who agreed Wolfley needed to be replaced, can approve the gymnasium addition at Wolfley, as well as the levy resolution. That includes an additional $1.9 million for Wolfley. I'm asking you to help me understand which firm recommended Wolfley be replaced and why. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Scott Hendon.
Good evening and thank you. I'm Scott Hendon. I went through North Kitsap schools and I have to say I have fond memories of my grade school years, great teachers into high school and junior high. Overall, I have to say they did well. Mr. Stinnerson in 7th and 8th grade gave me a basis that I really use today in my business as an electrician. Math concepts he taught, simple things like, does it make sense? Does the answer make sense? I still remember that from him. Coach Henderson, he's a saint in my opinion. Mr. Berg gave me a foundation in drafting. Mrs. McGuire was an English teacher, did a great job. Mr. Seberg in shop. I know that North Kitsap still has many fine teachers. Sadly, what I see though is in the school presentations I've seen, I know SPI is North Kitsap, approximately 47% of the kids are failing at grade level. It seems like to me that's a primary thing that we should be concerned about. This seems like a systemic failure, and nobody seems concerned about it. I understand in part that you're giving students and you have to work with what you're giving, whatever their background, and many would come from difficult ones, I understand that. But still, I see the presentations come forward and we talk about many phrases and things that I don't use normally in school culture, and I guess that's okay. But they're just words at the end of the day. They use nice graphs, which is fine, but we still see student failure at an alarming rate. We spend half of a presentation on school culture. I think the school culture should be excellence and success or something like that. I never ask my employees, although I care, are we culture good here? I think that we have to say success and achievement. The most important things in a school I would grade them on two things. Are you losing students? And we're losing about 25% of the students in North Kitsap. They're saying, I don't want your free education, I'm gonna go home, private schools, something other than that. About 25%, you wanna know why your enrollment's down. I think it's pretty obvious. So, is any of the board members willing to say, we have an emergency here, this has to stop? We just keep playing the game, keep rolling along, next year we're gonna do better, we're gonna use better graphs, whatever. Our students need more than that, I hope the board would say, this has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker for the first comment period is Mindy Valtiva Rovira.
Taxpayers aren't only interested in the tax rate, they are also interested in the truth. I was fortunate to attend a special meeting in June where y'all were given training on how to be directors and how to conduct school board business. It was great hearing the questions you posed to the facilitator. I got the impression that even the veterans were learning new things. Expectations that were placed on you previously in the past were wrong. The facilitator herself was familiar with the specific problems plaguing NKSD school board, including not being transparent or communicative with the public about NKSD business. In addition to reminding you all of your oaths of office and saying that y'all needed to update board policies every 5 to 6 years, she pointed out that if the school board has only one recommendation come to it, it will look like you are mere rubber stamping. She said that when you have more than one recommendation, this helps with your deliberations. A memorable quote of hers was, "Courageous boards will revisit decisions if more information comes into play. This is just good leadership." I will be forwarding the following two of my complaints to WASDA. Complaint and request for the NKSD school board to perform a formal investigation regarding the recharacterization of Breda Bleak Elementary. Taxpayers were led by NKSD leadership to believe that Breda Bleak, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, elementary was unusable and or unsuitable to be used as a school building when discussions and forums of the 2023 capital bond were going on and when rationales for selecting and building on the Slippery Pig properties were being given. Yet NKSD is entering into a rental agreement with OESD to use Breda Bleak Elementary as a school building for special education students less than 6 months later, informing the public that the biggest repair that the school building needed was its roof. You as NKSD school board directors have not sufficiently and openly discussed the recharacterization of Breda Bleak Elementary from initially being a building that could not be refurbished to get it back in working order to the present day where contractors are fixing the roof. I see them. Please investigate this discrepancy immediately so that taxpayers will have more confidence when it comes time to vote on the upcoming levy. If you have any questions about my complaint and request, or if you need further clarification, you can reach me at the email below. I'm forwarding this on to that WASDA facilitator. I think she can help. Other questions, since I have 30 more seconds? What repairs besides the roof have to happen to Gruta Bleak? I don't think that that's been discussed. Will these be contracted out? What is being done to get potable water in the building? This issue also made the paper. What are the electrical and data upgrades being made to the building? What all needs to be done and what are their respective costs? And if the building wasn't good for regular students, then why is it now good for special education students? Thank you.
All right, we will now move to board comments. Does any board member have a comment they would like to share with the rest of the board?
So I just want to thank the committee that's been working on this levy. It's just amazing to see a large group of people coming together and making a commitment to helping our board and our community do the best they can with the levy funds that we're requesting. Instead of complaining and berating others, you are problem solvers. You're willing to listen to various opinions, and then you came to the consensus. Thank you.
All right, and I don't have any board comments. We'll move to board reports. Does any board member have a report to share in regards to their assigned liaison position?
I do. Sorry. So I go to the city council meeting, and there were two things this month that I think our families would like to know more about. And one is that on August 27th, the traffic cameras on Knoll Road, which goes right in front of Poulsbo Elementary, will go live. And eventually those cameras can send tickets to speeders on that road. And that wouldn't be any of our parents, so we'll all be very careful. Also, there's special events down at the waterfront park every Tuesday evening in the summer from 6 to 8, and they're free concerts, and they also have activities for children. And they'd like to invite more of you to come join.
I don't have so much to report, much except for that I know both tribes, I know out at Fort Gamble, we're gearing up for, some before school events that are really important in the community to, our students there, for distribution of some supplies and other assistance. So, I know employees over there are busy doing that, as I know some Squamishes too. I'm not for sure on the dates and the details of some Squamishes, but, so I know their education departments are both really busy, gearing up for the new school year. So I haven't had a chance to, haven't received any notice of meetings or anything, but, I just know they're busily working in the background, like a lot of staff are this time of year. So I just appreciate that work that they do to help our students be prepared to come to school, ready and refreshed to learn. So excited.
The KCAC does not meet in July, but they will meet in August, so, August 14th, so I'll have a report in August. So we will move to the superintendent report.
Just wanted to echo, Beth stole my thunder a tiny bit, but I'm glad because it is a huge thing. So I know our facilities advisory committee, has had 8 meetings on their own, which I wanna say lasted 2 hours, but I know that they lasted 3 hours because I just wait to hear when they're done. So I see some people laughing, but a lot of good stuff going on. 3 different, community meetings also happening with information, reading the minutes of the meetings and just listening to the debrief. It really sounds like, the commitment of that group listening, going back to what they heard, when they talked to staff and community members from each building, just huge thanks for the time, effort, in such, I think it was April, July, that many meetings happened, and it's been a great July, and it's hard to get together and have a meeting when it's 80 degrees outside at 8 p.m. So just a huge thank you to the commitment and time, effort of that committee.
All right, we will now move into the action portion of our meeting. 6.1 consent agenda, items 6.1.1 through 6.1.8. A motion is needed to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. We need a second for the motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Bev. The motion to approve the consent agenda has been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All right. Okay, all opposed to the motion? The motion passes with a vote of 5-4 and 0 against. And we'll now move to 6.2, the Adnetics purchase order. A motion is needed to discuss the Adnetics purchase order. Do I have a motion?
I move to discuss.
Thank you, Bev. We need a second. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ed. A motion to discuss the Adnetics purchase order has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
Well, I just think it's really important to keep these servers up to date, because all of us have seen recently what happens when they aren't, and we don't have the security, and our students and families don't have the protection they need. And there's a lot of information out there on our students that need these servers to be up and running.
Totally agree.
And they're well beyond usable
Yes.
life.
Yeah, we got a good life out of them.
I think that's what stood out to me too, the aging, yeah.
All right. No further discussion? All right, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion? An aye? All right. All opposed to the motion? The motion passes with a vote of 5-4 and 0 against. All right. And now we will move to 6.3, and before we get to the action portion, we are gonna start with the presentation from facilities and for the facilities and technology capital levy. So, my mic is on again. Thank you, Mike.
And there are multiple members also from, the facility advisory committee here tonight. So I'm not putting anybody on the spot. I know some people are not public speakers, but, they're here to help with their assistance.
Yeah,
Or feel free to step up and talk to.
Yeah, if you guys wanna come up here, and I think there's maybe some people online too, I'm not positive. But we have Eric Quitzland, the starting lineup, Adam Toller, Dennis Peters, and Nick Smith. And I think, Laura Douglas and Craig Smith. That's right, isn't it? I got it right. So we've got, a great group. So I would echo exactly what you all have said. There were a lot of meetings, but we're gonna go through real quickly. And what I am comfortable talking, probably more than some of the people are comfortable talking, but I assume that you'll have a lot of questions. They're here, they can step in at any point in time, and I'd rather have them answer the questions that you have than me, because they've lived it, and they were the ones that were deliberating and kind of coming up with the recommendations. So, is this the first slide? I'm assuming
No,
it's the first.
sorry. History slide.
Okay, so the first slide is just kind of giving you a history of what has and hasn't passed in the North Kitsap School District and the percentages. You can see 2001 was the last time the district passed a bond. 2018, $40 million capital levy, 61%. 22, which we've talked about on and on, 36 million, 56%. 38% with the bond proposal in February of 24, and then this proposal would be for 31.9 million in November of 24 over 6 years. Why run a levy now? I think similar to why the district, considered running a bond, aging facilities and systems, you can see it, backlog of projects. Current capital levy funding will drop in '25, so I think the conversation early on was to try to keep it at the status quo level that we were in '23 and '24, that was the conversation. And inflation continues, costs will continue to rise over time. Every year there's construction inflation, undoubtedly. How did we decide what to include in the proposed capital levy? There was a pretty significant process that included folks applying online, going through the system. There were a number of questions asked. Interested people went ahead and put in their applications. We were trying to have respect the people that were existing members of the committee, so no one was asked to leave the committee, but trying to expand the committee and allow so that there would be individuals representing every school. We gave the opportunity for staff, a staff member, and a parent or someone related to the school, and we were successful with that. The application process then, we had principals make do the vetting of those and rank order different groups of principals, myself, Rachel, other administrators stayed out of it, with the idea of trying to create a larger, more diverse group of stakeholders. Ultimately, 27 members on the committee now, and every school has representation. And I would say that there isn't a meeting that there aren't at least 10 to 15, 15 to 20 people, and I agree, because these meetings are occurring in summer, and people have dedicated themselves, and I'm myself really appreciative of everyone that's here also. Bassetti Architects, the company that we worked with to facilitate the process, they went out to every school in the district, made themselves available to staff members and to parents, anybody that wanted to come in from, I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning until roughly 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think in a lot of those buildings, committee members actually sat with Michael Davis and Jordan Keel and were there to answer questions. They then brought in engineers, experts, came in, did a thorough review, basically recreated the facility condition index and created a long list at each building of not only what did they think needed to be done, but listening to staff and listening to parents, what were things that they would like to see done, even if they didn't necessarily have to be done.
It might just be, it was all facilities, not just school buildings.
Correct. So they were at transportation, they came here, they were at the maintenance department, they at every district site, thank you, yes. They also provided surveys to the building principals that they could then distribute to their staff members so that they had opportunities to meet in person as well as to do that through a survey. This kind of gives you an outline of the number of meetings, 8 meetings from April to July. We had 4 of those meetings at existing sites, Pearson, Suquamish, Wolfley, and Kingston Middle School. We had district staff work with the facilitators then to make sure that the slide decks went up on a Facilities Advisory Committee page on the district's website. Minutes or summaries from the meetings so people in the community had the opportunity to go there as well. We had a community meeting at North Kitsap High School, one at Kingston High School, and then last Thursday we did a community Zoom throughout the district. Anyone that was interested was able to participate. Reviewed comprehensive list of needs, identified priorities, and I think you can see that the areas that we settled on were these ones: safety and security program, equity and accessibility, and critical building systems and mechanic systems, making sure that we were dealing with those. And I would always come back then at the board meetings and give an update to all of you of what had occurred at the previous meeting. So it was that was kind of closing the loop back to you, keeping you informed, and obviously you had access to the same materials online that anyone else had access to. These are the 4 kind of principles, and you can see that it was broken down. Safety and security, you can see the types of projects that are included in the recommendation under safety and security, under equitable facilities and programming, building system mechanical improvements, and technology. So you can see a number of things, that were considered. And I think it took three, am I right to say that it was 3 full meetings of the committee to kind of ultimately come to the consensus of what the recommendation was. And you are correct with the meetings. We start the meetings at 6 o'clock. At 8:30, people got hangry. We were best off just shutting the meetings down at 8:30 because people started to, you lose focus at a certain point in time. So, but even with that, we did go beyond that. So that's 2.5 hour meetings every other week or every week with people that are volunteering their time. They did a great job. So ultimately, I think this page, okay, so this gives you an idea of what the project detail, the amount was set at an amount that would keep us relatively flat in terms of tax rates, as well as allow us to kind of do some projects to kind of keep the momentum of the 22 capital levy, with the idea that we do this work, we communicate, we have success with the projects after it, and if the district in the future, after showing we're doing what we're saying we're planning on doing, and the work of the committee doesn't end here, honestly, and we've said this, it is ongoing as we look at future needs, whether that's a bond in the future at some point or a capital levy at the future at some point. But thankfully, we all like each other, I think, so we'll have the opportunity to spend time together for the next several months. Wolfley is the first building. You can see the amount that was allocated. Under the theme of security, you can see we've got the security entry vestibule at Wolfley, and you can kind of read these types of projects. Accessibility improvements, when you see sidewalks and pathways, that's primarily ADA types of things to give kids better access to playgrounds. Sometimes to give, when you see Gordon, you'll see something, there's a access from the street. There's only one way up. If you're walking up and you're not on the grass, you're in the street with the buses and with the kids. So it's to provide access to the schools. Exterior facility improvements at Wolfley, exterior painting and sealing. We are doing the gym at Wolfley, and so this would allow for a complete refresh of the building so that the whole building would be painted. Fencing, and when you see site safety and security improvements, a lot of that is fencing. The next school, Hilda Pearson. Hilda Pearson, was a lot of conversation about Pearson because Pearson was a project that was going to be a rebuild in the bond. And we spent a lot of time on the tour at Pearson with the principal, Craig Frick. And the committee came to real easy consensus that the belief is that the building needs to be replaced. There was a lot of conversation of Slippery Pig property, or the Cedar Lane, whatever the real street name is. Lone Maple is another property that we have that's close to Pearson. And then also got information from the architect about the fact that their belief and their proof of concept of rebuilding on the site. Because if we planned on spending any money at the site, we didn't want to spend money on that site and then have that torn down when it's rebuilt at some other location. It didn't make sense to anybody on the committee, and I think they would all say the same thing. So the idea under kind of program equity was to build a gym similar to what we're doing at Suquamish and at Wolfley on the site at Pearson, that in a future bond or future capital levy, replacing the building would fit with the gym on that site. So the other thing you see is vehicle and school bus circulation and drop-off, pick-up improvements, creating another drop-off and pick-up parking lot on the site to separate the staff and the buses from the parents and the drop-off and pickup. That also would remain in place when the Pearson was rebuilt. So spending money at the school to make it a better experience for the kids there now, but have it fit with a replacement in the future, because I think you hear them all say that that was the recommendation. And then a dollar amount set aside for mechanical improvements to make sure that we keep that building running well until it gets replaced. So that's HVAC, water types of projects.
Mike, can we ask questions as we go along?
Yeah, once you guys come up here. I'd love to have these guys actually come up and answer your questions, but, rather than me. Or let them speak up however they want to do it.
So, Pearson is a sad state of affairs there, and, you can't hear me, Mr. Smith.
I'm hard of hearing.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you well.
I have kind of a gymnasium voice. So, when you went and toured Pearson, how does building a gym facilitate replacing the building eventually? I don't quite, I mean,
I'd
just,
like to-
just speak to that. I'm not saying I disagree, I just don't really get it.
I think I follow your question, and I'd like to speak to that. First off, our recommendation of building a gym, it aligns very well with the criteria that we've talked about. And so, personally, I feel it's very important that we follow some kind of criteria so that we're making methodical decisions or recommendations and to support the board's ability to make methodical decisions. But we're basing it on some type of logical and objective criteria that aligns with the school district's mission, which is to serve student success. And so when we took the tour, referring to Pearson as in a sad state of affairs, that's an understatement. I'll acknowledge that. And one of the things we discovered, the space that they currently use for the gym, as a gym, is also used as a cafeteria, storage, and multiple applications. And so there are tremendous inefficiencies that occur when they have to very quickly turn it over from being a cafeteria, functioning as a cafeteria to a gym, and back and forth and back and forth. There are space limitations, there are a number of things that are just inefficient. And it's one of the few elementary schools that does not currently have a gym. There are 2 gyms being built currently, Suquamish and Wolfley. So this would help to alleviate that inefficiency by building a gym and allowing it to serve its purpose, and at the same time allow the cafeteria to serve its purpose. We spent a lot of time debating this and challenging the architects, who were very informative and very adamant that, yeah, we can build this as a phase. So it would not be wasted energy, it would certainly not be wasted money. It could be built in such a way that it is a functional phase, that we gain some functionality immediately, right away, and then we all agree that the building itself needs to be replaced. But that could be done in a way that it would attach to the gym functionally, and the end product would be just as if we designed the whole package at the same time. So it'd be a logical phase.
I can speak to that a little more. I thought that was real, but I have a lot of faith in the architect. My background's in construction, with some construction of high schools. That site has a lot going for it. In that it has a lot of street access. So from a constructability standpoint, I agree with the architect that the gym can be built, and that's not going to hamstring any future improvements on the site, including replacements.
Who are you?
I think maybe like speaking to like why they need it. My children went to Pearson, got like kindergarten on up, so they're older now, but my kids went to Pearson. And so I think like the big thing I learned, they're older now, they're not here now, but the first 20 minutes of PE cannot be in the gym, even if it's raining, because there's not enough space. They don't have enough time. And I mean, kudos to the principal, because he tried to move the breakfast to the hallway this year, right? Like, he had a great plan. He's like, hey, I'm gonna move the breakfast tables out to the hallway so they can be out there. But then the fire marshal came through and said, no, you can't do that, so they're all back in there. So the janitors, I mean, they have 20 minutes to turn that breakfast thing in. That's a lot on them, you know what I mean? And especially after lunch too, they have 20 minutes to get it ready to go back. And those 20 minutes, those kids are, whatever the weather conditions are, their PE is interrupted. You know what I mean? It's not a solid block,
So the gym isn't gonna be attached to the present building?
No. No, it's
No.
standalone.
it would be positioned so that a future building could be attached to the new gymnasium.
And if you think of the property, it's up that, you've kind of got the lower level, the mid-level, and the upper, it'd be on the upper, is where they would end up building the gym and then the school.
And, thank you for, the information, just more, context around this, and I think, I really appreciate, kind of that, you know, you set this criteria, you know, you have these kind of 4 areas, and, cause of course, when you look around, there's so much to be done, and so you do have to kind of have criteria to get started and follow a plan. With this decision, was there kind of, efforts to get a pulse from the staff and, teacher at Pearson, kind of their thoughts on moving forward with staying in that location and having the new, you know, the gym built, and then potentially down the road, having the new school built around the gymnasium?
Yes, when we walked around the principal, that was his big push. He said a lot of the parents there are really, really invested in staying in that area. And when we said, you know, you understand the state of the school you're in now, like what, if we could build something, what would it be? Not a new school, you know, because kids love to go there. He said to have that extra room for that gym would be like his wish list, to give them some more flexibility. And when we worked with the architects, all of us, our main question was, everything you designed with the bus route and the gym, will it be used for future good? Can it be used for future? And they said they will make it so it's not being wasted in 1 year from now. So everything will be incorporated for a future building down the road, that is to come.
Thank you, by the way, for your work, and knowing a little bit about Pearson. A couple questions. First, is that if we were to go this route, this still leaves a gap. One of my concerns for Pearson is the security status of the buildings, because obviously it was built at a time when we weren't worried about the things that we are now as far as security of the students and the staff. I think the layout of the building makes it very difficult to secure the building like it is some of our other buildings. Did your group address those concerns? You know, because if we do indeed build on that side, obviously there's gonna be still several years where we're gonna have to use the present building. Did your group address the fact of, okay, can we make security adjustments to that building without a huge expense, but address some of the, I mean, I know that they've tried to do some things, but are there more things that we can do that are not gonna cost millions of dollars, but will address some of the security issues of that present building while we're transitioning to a new building?
I'll address it this way and say that, yes, we did spend a lot of time talking about how can we improve the security of that facility. And it's important to note that one is probably one of the more vulnerable of all the elementary schools. It's got 4 public entrances that are very, very difficult to control. It also has exterior exit rooms in each of the classrooms that are difficult to control because the HVAC system is so out of whack and unreliable that to keep the rooms tenable, they have to open the doors and so there's tremendous security issues there. The challenge we discussed, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that we don't really see a cost-effective way to do so, to resolve the security issues like they need to be secured without replacement. And so investing what it would take to do it right would be just throwing good money after bad. And so unlike the replacement of the gymnasium, we really don't see a viable way to address the vestibule issue in that particular school. The others are different, that's a different story. So it's a vulnerability that I think we have to live with for a period of time. And in my opinion, it just puts an added sense of urgency on we need to replace that school, and that's going to require a bond. But in the meantime, there are some things we can do to enhance the functionality.
You know, it's gonna be my question is, are there Band-Aid methods, so to speak, that we can that we can adopt more than we've done already to increase the security of the building. And I'm sure, it sounds like you've already gone down that road.
Yeah, I think we have.
You have some fencing in the budget on that one, right?
Yeah, we have some minor things that, yeah.
Fencing, things that are not terribly expensive.
Yeah.
We had a lot of conversation over security at our last meeting.
Yes.
And, you know, I kind of leaned on some experience of some people who are here right now, but, one of the best security things is if the site is secured and then you see someone come over a barrier, it's a red flag. There's, you know, places secure and other places here that are hard to secure. But I thought the fencing was a pretty effective,
And that's something that could be done that would be a step towards future. It wouldn't be throwing good money after that. There are some minor enhancements like additional security cameras that could be added. But we're kind of limited on reconfiguring the vestibule. And that's really the greatest point of vulnerability.
Okay, thank you.
I do wanna say, outside of, just Pearson in general, our first concern that we all brought up unanimously when we started this project was safety and security. That was across the board, we said, foremost of building anything, safety and security was our primary goal. So we looked at every school, safety and security first, before any additional things we looked at.
I've got a comment about the gymnasium. Pearson deserves way more than what we're giving it, and I think we're spending more money on that school than anywhere else, primarily on the gym. There was some mistakes with the bond. I was on the committee before the bond, and I apologize that we failed the bond. It's partly my fault. We build that gym, we're committed to being at Pearson. That's gonna tell a lot of people some positive about hopefully running a bond down the road. I think it's a major positive step.
And I'm new to the committee. I just started in April, so I don't have the benefit of the history with the prior history. But I will add to his comment and say that it was very apparent to me when we first started looking at Pearson that the demographics support the need for a school in that location. So the idea of relocating, I think the consensus took that off the table very quickly. And so our recommendation of putting a gym, I think just demonstrates that we don't see the justification for relocating because the need is there. The service need of the community is in that location and will be well into the future. So.
I just want to thank you for looking at the pickup and drop-off improvements, because I've driven by that school and there's children and parents parking along the side of the road, trying to walk their kindergartners across that road, and, you know, the buses are in there, the teachers have taken up what parking spots are. So knowing that you have a field, I guess, down below that you can run, I mean, I'm not quite sure how you're gonna do it, but I'm really glad that something we can do to make that more safe soon.
I think the architects were pretty phenomenal in giving us many options and many plans, and like, they said, like, you know, like, if you look at like Seattle Public School, they usually have like 2 to 3 square miles that they have to build with, we have acres, so we can, you know what I mean, build it, and there are options, and they have lots of good ideas to give us.
Well, and as a parent, you know, we've probably experienced it and said, hey, this is what we.
It's a good hour of your day, or you're just sweating there the whole time, realizing that's gonna happen, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's more parents dropping kids off than it used to be. The kids were all on the bus.
Yeah.
So there's more schools, and I think you guys should just stay up here, and we click through them, and you can ask questions about schools, and you can all talk about and Dennis can too if you want.
I'm just wondering, sorry, at Pearson, do we have a solid confirmation, my understanding is we do, but I don't know if I've heard it, that the needs for the, you know, fire access and the accessibility and the, you know, all the way around, I know this conceptual rebuild, could be met 100%, no questions. so that we're not putting up a gym and then told we can't access it the way we need to per the code, and now we didn't intend to throw money at, but then we, go down that road. So do we have some sort of, I guess, plan for that, confirmation, did they address that? I'm assuming yes, and I think I heard yes, but.
Yeah, we have, conceptual designs that they've shown us, as she was explaining, that says that they would be able to accomplish that 100% with various, options. So
Okay.
it would be one locked in.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think
super
there's
firm
like
on that.
3 different options, and there's 3 different ways to do it, I mean, I think, and I think if you look at their track record too, of the stuff that they've built in other places, I mean, the ones in Sweden or, the ones in Seattle, they did this before, so, I mean, I think they were leading us in the right direction.
That question was asked very directly to the design team many times at the communities, and it makes sense to the configuration size.
They said the code would be met to where, the standard is right now.
And there's a little bit of concern, well, one, I remember meeting at that school, and I feel the community's, input on that location is preferred, so I super appreciate you guys making all those considerations, that's really important. But, like you said, Craig, we're making a commitment at this point into the future for that, and, I had another question, but I lost it, but I just really appreciate that, because I think that's really important to know. I worry a little bit, I know codes can change and things can change, so I just wanna be really confident that we can allow for, like I said, there's 3 different options and ideas, that makes me feel confident and
How
moving
many
forward.
acres were there? Who remembers? They told us like how many acres we have there, right? If there's-
11, I think.
Wasn't there
10 or
what?
11.
10 or 11 acres?
Yeah.
So these architects are normally building schools on 3 acres. And if they can make it work in 3 acres, I am positive that their 10 acres can make it all
Yeah.
work over there.
It's very
They
reassuring.
had designed a school for $70 million, again, I think it's 400 or 500 students.
More than we have.
They can scale that down to,
Make it all-
40,000
Yes.
square feet with 250, 300 students.
I'm very reassured to hear that, thank you.
And I think too, like, we went as far as to think about like, okay, like, what if we did like a submarine, like, kind of a submarine theme in the school, right? Kind of tying into where it's at, trying to, maybe the people that are on the bases that are going to CK, maybe we would pull them back over, so we went far in this, you know what I mean? Okay, people like CK, cause it's new and shiny, what if we're new and shiny, what if we do a, a submarine thing and kind of tying in the bases, we've thought about a lot of it.
Thank you, it's great to hear we have options.
Somebody wanna talk about Gordon? Adam, you're standing by the,
Mr. Gordon, just like the elementary schools, outside of Pearson, security festival that, we're gonna do to those elementary schools, and then side, accessibility improvements, sidewalks and pathways. Mike was explaining, that road going up there, having an actual pathway for them to walk up there, so they don't have to walk in the street, walk in the grass. And also, making it more accessible for them to get in there. And then a new playground. They got a lot of feedback when they did their site visit for Gordon, that parents, we were kind of shocked when they said, we all want a new playground, and they were good adamant about that. So we have put that in the budget for them to get the new playground.
Are playgrounds normally funded with the local PTA of the school?
I think usually when a school is constructed, it's the district that would put that in. Sometimes there's PTAs that fundraise to add more equipment, but it really is typically, should be the district.
Yeah, I volunteer at Gordon and they don't really have it. And there's one big field, but it's on the other side of the parking lot, and they don't want the kids crossing the parking lot. So I'm sure somebody will come up with something very creative.
Yeah, and with this too, you'll see, like with Gordon, how they went to the playground, we really leaned into what the teachers and the parents of that area were asking for. So you'll see different areas, different schools wanting different things. We can kind of do one.
That's so important.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to give everybody kind of what they were wanting for their school to benefit their kids.
I'm just bummed at the resource, allocation, how we have to really be thoughtful like that, but I do know Gordon also had originally, this is something I wanna avoid too in the future, but was planned for another pod that we saw kinda in the bond. And I know when I went to the school, the principal had mentioned the temporary wall that was put up originally is, sort of a weirdness in that hallway. So it's just, it's a bummer that too, or maybe it's part of it. I'm hopeful that maybe that if we're not doing that add-on pod, we could do something to make that wall a little bit more, we could push on it. it was a little, so I mean, it would be nice to consider things like that if we can, things that were temporary originally, aren't seeming as temporary, that maybe need a little bit more resources just to make it a little more final for now, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but, I hope maybe some of that can be part of it too. But I do love the consideration, we heard playground, we heard, it's real need there, and the walkability at school. Kingston, we don't have walkable schools, but I'd say that's one of the ones that's the most. There's a lot of foot traffic in there, so, thank you for the individualized considerations there for all the needs.
I don't think there was any, there were projects in the bond, I think that the committee, we didn't really spend a lot of time on it, but there wasn't any disavowing of this project. Or,
the need, right?
so, but the issue is the amount of money, and when you're looking at the needs at Pearson versus the needs of a new pod at Gordon, it's not to say that that's not something we would consider or should consider in the future. But I understand in the meantime, if you can push through the wall, I get what you're saying.
Just something to like, I know it's not gonna be a forever, but like the thing where if we could consider how much we're spending and if we can, yeah. Things like that.
The next elementary was Poulsbo.
And I, just maybe for any folks listening or community members, because I know I appreciate also that I think you guys stated that we all came together, probably the top priority was, safety. And maybe just to speak a little bit about what does a secure entry vestibule, what is that and what does it look like, just so, I mean, I think we know, but just maybe.
I don't think I do, because it's pretty expensive.
Well,
You know, I mean, if it's just a room for everybody to come into, I assume that's not what it is.
So when you see security entry vestibule, it's actually an addition to this, you didn't put the other part in there. It's actually admin modifications as well. So the, security entry vestibule with the admin room, like the office, front office modification for it. So you actually come through the door and then be forced into the admin room, the office, before you can actually come into the school. You buzzing, so it's actually funneling these people in. How we see it hopefully how it's very weird configured, that they're gonna reconfigure that office, and because you're facing behind in front of the desk where you have to actually look out now, and they're gonna be forced in there to check in.
So that's why Wolfley's more expensive?
Yes,
Correct.
yes. So that's what kind of, each school had a different flavor for it, so we had a budget accordingly, but with that, but the admin room, the front office will be configured with the introduction as well.
And that's where it drives all.
Yes, and we're looking at elementary schools with, young children, you know, that, they can't necessarily say something as an adult would, it's being the most, needed for the vestibule to force everybody to this building.
Now, on those, entries, are those double layered?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll have your first layer go in, and then you'll have a door that will force you into the admin office,
And you have
and then you'll have the
another-
second layer. So if it's a staff or anything, they can pass through it, so.
Poulsbo.
So both the same thing, security vestibule, as we do with the other elementary schools, and then as well as site safety and security events with permanent fencing around.
Fencing is inexpensive and it actually does quite a bit.
It's just a chain link fence around the perimeter?
That's my understanding.
Yes. Suquamish. I think this is the second largest.
Yeah.
I think Adam represents Suquamish, so.
So I represent Squamish, so this is the second largest, money that's coming out of this, really from this money. So same thing, security vestibule, and then also the student classroom resource additional support for some good, students with disabilities. So they're actually looking at taking that portable and removing that portable completely, where the portable is at currently. We're gonna build a sped ed addition, to fully bring all students inside. So there'll be no children with portables. And, part of this is reconfiguring the current sped room to be able to move the fourth grade students inside. So all students will be inside. Vehicle circulation drop off, if you've been to college, you'll see how there's like a ground parking lot before you get to the actual student pickup drop off. That will be extended 1,000 feet, so we can get those parents off the street and actually on the school grounds, which will help alleviate a lot of that traffic. The site accessibility improvements is include accessible paths, so we're turning all this paths into ADA accessible, areas, and some hard grades, sloping those out for the students. And then safety site and security improvements, like putting a permanent fence around there, and there was no fence, there's a little fence on the brick wall, but I can also put a fence around that school as well. And exterior improvements, the exterior painting, and then mechanical improvements as well, so continue that, to extend that HVAC system and the other mechanical systems useful life.
There's only one portable being used there now,
Yes,
and are you talking about actually building an addition for the special ed room?
yes, so the
But it'll
portable
be
will go
connected.
away completely, and that, where the portables are currently, would now be fully enclosed attached to the school addition of the school.
It's adding classroom space.
Yes.
basically.
So is that a growing school that maybe we need, is one classroom enough?
It's not, but, sorry. If you look, if touring the school, I mean, will tell you a lot, so.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't toured it.
Yeah, configuring going into some of the spaces that they are actually using as classrooms, and, I mean, I love the industrial look, but I'm not sure we want pipes like out of the ceiling, I mean, I would be the kid that was counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pipes go this way, and then 3, I would count them, so, I don't think we want that as classroom space, and so it's really taking the space that's right now being used for, a lot of our students, that receive extra services, like small little, corner offices, and it's taking that space, creating an actual classroom space to allow the fourth graders to come in, and putting that extra module or that extra, addition on allows for all those one-off, like tiny office spaces to maybe have, you know, occupational therapy instead of it being one-on-one. Now you can have a 1 with 3 kids doing a group at more interactive type work. Sorry, you jumped in.
You know, and with, so far as too, the safety and security was a large thing, if you've been to the school, a lot of the schools, with their portables they have are in the back of the school, so you actually have to go around to get to them. With Snohomish, it's right off the street, so there is no perimeter fence, there's no nothing there, you just walk. Yeah, you can walk right.
You try it.
So,
So is the gym, where is the gym?
the gym is on the other end, so.
The new gym?
Yes.
Okay.
Vinland.
So Vinland would also get a secure vestibule. There's big, challenges with circulation currently, so that's the largest part of the allotment for Vinland here. Currently, they're going around this back of the school, through the playground, because of some queuing space that was eliminated with the construction project down the railway. So that's something that everybody agreed that we address, and the site accessibility kind of falls in with that. And the perimeter fencing and other things to manage security, that's what's in the
The soccer teams in the district put a lot of money into that lower field to get it to drain right. We're not talking about parking on that, are we?
We're not.
No.
It's reorganizing the, kind of the loop that's not really used as far as I understand. I'm paraphrasing for people with more familiarity with educated communities. Making that into a bus loop, and improving what's currently a temporary gravel path that, people line up around that outside of the building. So there's still design work to be done, but, it's definitely an area of need. But the fields, as far as I understand, are not likely to touch.
And we've seen conceptual designs of that as well, of having a separate bus, pickup area versus a parent pickup area. To be able to go run the school, to be able to have that traffic, so it's getting the parents off the street as well, because we've seen after they put that sidewalk in, where parents used to park, and now they can't park anymore. So we would pull them in and get them off that street.
The current bus loop goes through the parking lot, but I think the staff parking lot, if that's rerouted, that will no longer take place.
Kingston Middle School.
I think you should take this one.
Well, they added more to it than I was gonna do. Because I was really focused on the elementary. The cinder track, actually both middle schools. You know, cinder, that's so hard to, kind of dangerous. I mean, I used to play on cinder soccer. You have to soak that out of your hands, you know. It's horrible. I know at Kingston, middle school, I'm coaching boys soccer at the high school, and they're bringing over the middle school kids to use the track, because their track at middle school is unusable. And the community uses the track too. And that's, I think, one of the nicer pieces of ground we have that is really, really community used. There's a group of us out in Kingston trying to organize something to help make that better. This will be huge. More in there, this circulation drop-off pickup improvements, it's in most of the school, that's a safety issue. The student-centered site improvements, that's off the comments, it's already there.
The parking lot that's in the back of the school, the principal's biggest thing is he said, I would like this parking lot behind the school gone.
He doesn't want traffic.
Yes, because a lot of cars will just zoom behind it, and these kids, when they get their lunch, is they'll go outside, and they'll hang out outside after lunch. So he said if we could turn that parking lot in the back into like a student plaza for them to, interact with things, that would be beneficial, and it would prevent them from, walking the streets and like that, and also prevent people from trying to park in the back, right there. So that was a big thing for the student plaza, that they really did want that.
It's a pretty large space.
So all the parking would be in the back.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of parking.
Yeah, there is a lot of parking.
Maybe the best parking lot in the district.
Yeah, especially when they did the vehicle circulation for the class house, the big parking lot, that's where the small parent area, and you can see if you are capturing the turn, they will just turn going into there. So that's what we designed the actual parent parking lot.
And it's nice to have a student plaza in the back of the school, where you're not gonna have strangers driving by.
There is one back there off the common,
Oh.
the back corner, it's not real big, and I don't know how used it is, but I certainly.
But this, we're looking at like a covered space, things like that, so they can sit around there doing like weather. And then, site safety and security improvements, improve the perimeter fencing in the area, and then also cameras. So between the schools, the two school, building, there's the pathway, the principal said, keep some cameras out there, so we'd be able to monitor that, and that would be huge, that. And then the general facility improvements, the next year, so if you go to the school, it's the same.
Poulsbo Middle School.
I think probably the biggest thing about this is their track. So when we had our meetings, we would go to the schools, we would sit there, and I went to all of them, I went to everyone we had, I sat there from 11 till, I think it was about 3 or 2:25 there. So I would sit there, and so as we sat there, we invite the staff to come in, it doesn't matter if you're students, if we had a lot of students come in, we had a lot of staff come in. And first of all, they kind of asked us, like, hey, what are you here, what are you doing, what is this about? So we explained, like, hey, what's your main concern? And the first 8 people that walked in, their first comments were the track. So, and I think we need to speak for those teachers there, they feel very strongly that they want a track, and it is very important to them, so.
Is this the track in the back where they play soccer too?
Yes.
Is that
There's
the?
a field,
it's
there's a
crushed.
field inside the track, pretty traditional, I mean, it looks like it was built in the seventies.
It seems to produce a lot of injuries this year, so.
It makes it difficult to run any type of PE class, it makes it
Right.
difficult for any of our community, to want to access our community schools, our buildings and facilities, because it is, fall down, I think Craig, you said, you spend time
Yeah.
soaking your hand. Those cinder rocks, the cinder, crushed cinder, it just goes right into your hands and
Yeah,
knees,
so-
wherever you fall.
By slide path.
I'm pretty sure I had some storm bed in my knee. because
Yeah,
of those
right,
ones.
you're right.
I've experienced that.
Exactly.
The asphalt repairs and sealing here is behind,
Yeah.
the loop behind the school, because there's major potholes and stuff, it's kind of fixing that.
And this is a good example of, the original proposal for this particular project was to resurface, the parking and, the part that's gravel now would be to convert that to asphalt. But we, trying to get back to a balanced number, keep within the 25,000. We prioritize this by, let's cut that back a little bit and just do the necessary repair for the access road, because that is failing. So, gravel is still functional, it's not ideal, but it's still functional. We can continue to nurse that along for a while.
That area gets so much traffic out there that.
Yes, there's gonna be more.
Kingston High School.
Okay, the skating fencing and zoning, that was originally Tony, a bigger budget to put in a covered, called a stadium, but they're nice stands, and bathrooms and all that, which is long overdue. I've been coaching there since the school was built. It was never really finished. We went without lights for the first few years. The fencing will be security and safety, but now we sell tickets out there to football games, and last year I had to sell tickets to the soccer games. They just watch and sit down. You can't really, it's so hard to sell tickets, it's ridiculous. And if you wanna get rid of somebody, maybe, for good reason, the referee can get out of there. Well, the fence will help, you know, and it's not that expensive, it's a lot cheaper than the stadium hurdles and bathrooms and stuff. So we put that back in. And then it seems like a glorified water fountain out there at the baseball field, but it's way more than that. You know, they generate funds with concession stand and all that. And, you know, everybody's supposed to bring their own water bottle, but you really do need potable water out there. It's large groups of people. It's 2 programs out there. And they're saying how they could make it less expensive depending how far we want to run the line. We just got to come from the main road in, down, and maybe we could go halfway and then run hose or something. Spring. But it's critical. And so we did that.
And it supports more than just simply making fountains, it also supports the concession.
Exactly.
Out there.
Right. Okay. Hundreds of people. Vehicle circulation. Okay. The utility building. You know, I was stationed at the Nike base when they closed it in '74. And, you know, there was barracks when first coming on the right. Talk about tearing that down, but it's $600,000. Then when you come down where the rock is, behind Maxwell, all the utility building, that could be, and we parked there already anyway, it's been ridiculous. But tear that down, I think we could more than double the parking, and that's in football, or soccer, baseball, and you could almost extend it out from the existing parking lot to the school. It makes totally makes sense to do that. I mean, it's a lot less expensive and closer. And parking is horrible. If you've ever been doing football. Site safety and security improvements. What specifics are we doing there?
The bridge was a big one. The bridge is a big slip hazard. I guess the main way into the school.
You wanna cover that?
So covering and grading and a lot of different options. There's a lot of different design options, but it was pretty well. It was identified as a big need.
Was originally when Kingston was built, was the idea that they would have their competitive sport events at North Kitsap High School?
I thought so.
I mean, I thought.
I was involved in the building of this school, but there were arguments going on, because there were some people who didn't think that. And that's why they didn't have lights, so when they didn't get off this committee until we got lights. You don't build $1 million space when you use 1/3 of it, you don't put in lights. But all along, the community, the kids, the staff, coaches, all thought we were going to do that. I played my games for a couple of years in North Kitsap State, and I coached my games in there, and the coaching now. I love that place. But Kingston's its own community, and they need to be playing out there. Talk to the Chamber of Commerce. We would like them to be out there. And we are, basically we are. Our home game against North Kitsap football required to come out there. North. So, but we don't mind smaller space. We don't mind that at all. Kingston size.
On the potable water, circling back to that, I guess my question would be, I'm hopeful there is thought, like you said, there was originally different plans, and there's different needs, but for future thinking, is the potable water something that, do you ever foresee the possibility, I know we're talking about grandstand and happens on this side, but for the baseball and fast pitch, where that potable water's coming out, where it can be support, if the water line comes through, would it eventually, could it support restrooms and other facilities like that, are we thinking?
So you can definitely make it extendable.
Okay, it's doable.
Yeah, you can basically tee off at the.
What about the size of the pipe?
The size of the pipe and set up to just extend later.
I'm just.
Plan ahead.
Hey, I've had to use that porta potty a lot, cause I have girls that play pass bitch, and, there's a lot of, we get a lot of people out there, and accessibility is an issue, and, the need for restrooms and things, it's horrible, it's awful, and, so I hope in the future, we can say, we spent this money, and we planned in the future to add more resources that are gonna grow our communities, grow our students, our athletic programs.
With that, like we said with the other sites, with the architects, is they said, they're not gonna design any of these things as a one and done. They wanna make it flexible, so in the future, if we do need to add additional, then that's the way they're gonna design it for us. And so if we do, right now with our budgeting, we do a shorter line, we'll have the extendability to go further, if we need to go further. And not just make it a one and done, where it's like, this is a waste now, we have to do something else.
I mean, as long as we're not putting more water physically on the fields, let's put that, but preparing for resources like that, I think we can't handle more water.
Remember, the bond had, fields at North Kitsap High School and Kingston High School, and again, that's like the Gordon edition, it's not like that
Yeah.
goes away.
Yeah.
And it would include restrooms, it included a lot of that stuff, so,
Turf, baseball, softball.
yeah,
I just don't wanna hear later we have to rent lines again to go somewhere else, cause of that, you know.
yes.
No,
We won't tell you if we have to
excellent
do
point,
it.
but I think that the people, that group that we hired, we're getting a lot of our information from, are planning all that out. You know, whatever we're doing now is
Yeah.
for a bond.
And you'll see on this side too, that it's very, sports driven, because that was, the feedback we got when we did a meeting with them up there in high school. It was-
Pretty loudly that night.
They were, yes, they were very big on the sports side. So as you see, like, we listened to the community and put in what they were wanting, how it doesn't has busted, things like that, it's very good, so.
And that makes sense, because this is one of the newer buildings in the district. So the building itself, it has a lot of functionality that some of the others don't. So there's less of a need to improve the building itself, but because they were somewhat short-sighted or compromised, there were compromises made in some of the athletics and supports. And so that's where their greater need is right now. The building's fine, but there's some other functionality in this facility that doesn't exist.
Well, and Bree and I heard the kids say, we want our teams to stay here at Kingston, and part of the problem was their facility. You know,
It's a good start.
many athletes will want to stay if they have new facility.
Put them in a league that they belong in, shouldn't be too rich.
And this
That's
was,
my strong opinion, based on years of coaching.
Is it 8:30?
Watching coaches leave, then we shouldn't have.
and with Kingston High School too, I was gonna say, it's the same thing as Pearson, a lot of these things, we wanted to, try to set that core foundation of future developments. So bringing the water and building the fence better for the schools, to bring all this stuff back to Kingston. We wanna have the schools with the schools, you know, we don't want people going from Kingston to North, we're trying to get everybody back to our location.
It's a little transportation issue too.
North Kitsap, I think, is the last school.
Sure. So, like everywhere else, site accessibility, improvements, I personally wasn't all that familiar with that one. There's improvements in the courtyard that were spoken about a lot, including sidewalks that have heaved that are no longer ADA accessible. There's more need of the facility here than pretty much anywhere else, maintenance wise. Re-roofing just the top layer, I think we had talked about demolishing that building at the west end, but that came off, I think, just cut budget. It's got a leaking roof, I believe. One of the things that I thought was good here, that it has a hydraulic heating system in the chunk of that school that has to be run all the time because of the pipe fittings, even now when it's hot. And so part of it was replacing those fittings, which is gonna pay for itself. I wish the facilities guy was here. Anyways, so that's the mechanical improvements to improve the life of the school. We were trying to be pretty frugal here, but, cover the urgent needs.
So I think the last few slides had to do just kind of with the dollar amounts, so you can see the dollar amounts per year, and you can see the first 2 years, 25, 26, which were to try to get the 22 levy up to that amount, and then extending technology out 6 years to 2030. 31.9 million over 6 years. And then you can see the rates attached to that, where the existing 22 capital levy zeroes out in 27. And on the far right, you can see the total levy rate. And again, it's the levy rate, it's not what a homeowner pays. A homeowner's gonna obviously pay whatever their assessed value is by that rate. But I think the big thing here is to see that in 27, you've got, what's that, 80, what's that, 34 and 58, so 92 cents or something like that drop in the tax rate at that point in time, which sets the district up if there's an interest in trying to run a bond, or if they're trying to run a capital levy. That would be the time in 26 to consider something like that, which would also give us a lot of time to have conversations with the community, with the school board, with the committee, with the staff, with whoever. It gives a lot of time so that there's a really, I mean, you see the quality of what's happened here in 3 months. So if you think about, let's accelerate that for 12 or 14 or 15 months, what can the committee do in terms of considering what do we need to do as we go forward? We're lucky that this was such a fantastic group. And then there's just a chart that shows the levy rates and where that drop off is, and then there's even an arrow that was put on there to show you that there's an arrow there. And then ultimately giving you an idea of, you can't see down below, but it says what the difference is from 25, 26, 26, all the way out to 26. And I think if you get rid of that screen, it says it's $10 a year. For a $500,000 home, residents would pay an additional 83 cents a month, or $10 per year starting in 2025. If the levy were to be adopted and then passes in November of 24. If it runs in November of 24, the collection starts the spring of 25, so projects can start right away. So we save also time on those cost escalation that we've talked about.
You know, Mike, I really appreciated that breakdown, because on a $500,000 house, you're only paying $370 a year towards the levy, and in the last 4 years, you're only paying $85 a year. And like you were saying there, for people that are already paying taxes, it's only $10 more a year than you're paying now, right?
For a $500,000 house, that's correct.
For a $500,000 house.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has to do their own calculation for
Sure.
that price.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, I look at $370 and Glenn spends more on coffee than that, you know? In a month.
And then, so today's July 25th, the board would approve it. We would give to the county by August 6th that information. We also, as a board, would appoint people. There's the requirement that the board appoint names to the county by August 6th of folks that want to write a pro and con statement in the voter pamphlet that comes out for the election in November. And then November 5th would be the election day. And I know you've had a few questions, but if there's any more questions, we still have everybody standing up here.
Just out of curiosity, and again, I just want to thank you all for your work on this. I mean, it's great, and I think this is just really exceptional work. So I know regarding safety, I know something that we talked a lot about was getting rid of all the portables. You know, that was always a goal. Do we know if if we were to approve and then pass the levy, do we have an idea of the date on portables? If we bought all that, how many we would have to install there?
Based on this capital levy,
Yeah, if all this work got done.
just one portable.
We would have to wait.
Just one response, or everything else needs to stay in
Oh, right, it would all stay, I was just wondering what that number.
I think the answer to your question is it would be too many. We need to get them into real
Yeah.
buildings, which again, just in my mind, puts urgency on the bond. But I would like to say as a theme or an approach that the committee has taken, we recognize that the previous bond failed, no question. We also recognize that there is a very long list of things that need to be done, okay? And that's not gonna go away, it's only gonna get worse. And so, we can't kick the can down the road. We can't afford that. The students don't deserve that, but they deserve better. So what we're proposing here is a step, a phase. This is the first round of funding, based on sustaining current levy rates, so we're not seeking a significant increase in taxes. And that would keep things going, but it would also allow the committee more time to be more methodical and diligent in its work to come up with a reasonable plan. A plan that's prudent, a plan that is student focused, that truly meets the needs of the future and provides it's just a prudent approach to enhancing the schools and sustaining them.
Pass.
I think when the original list that we received, I didn't add them all up, but it was probably 9 figures of the wish list. We broke it down in the first meeting, I think it was about $40 million, and then finally at 2 more meetings to this list. I can't say that everyone agreed on every single item, but we all agreed on the final line.
With 2 goals of maintaining the tax rate and taking care of the most urgent needs of every school from an equity perspective. It just, getting rid of portables and building additions would have prevented either one of those from happening. So, a lot of the portables are going away right now. Poulsbo Middle School, there's some urgent needs that it's abolished. But we felt it was good to be conservative and keep the taxes where they are.
Yeah, I think we were looking long range to just patching things. For this potential bond and or a capital levy, and letting the people know that we've been listening, and responding.
But definitely the theme of not having children portables was talked about at every meeting, and it was addressed, and if it was possible, we would have, we did the best we could with the number of people to keep it at a even rate to not portable.
And I know a lot of the committee, everybody agrees with me on it, that right now, all these are needs. Every one of those is needs. We wanna get to a point where we don't have needs, that we just now have wants. And fixing all those needs, we're ready to start somewhere.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on my comments. So I would first just say thank you to the setting architects and their leadership throughout the process. It's been great. Second, thank you to the advisory committee. I know it's important to realize that they are volunteers. So the dozens of hours that they put into this process, I think is great. Especially want to highlight the community engagement that they ran, the amount of time that those took. I thought that those were vital to the process. And I was very happy to see that I believe all, if not most, of the no committee members for the bond campaign were actually at those community events. It was good to see the advisory committee members reaching out to them, engaging them, encouraging them to be part of this process. So I hope that those individuals took advantage of that opportunity because they were at least given the opportunity to participate in this capital levy campaign. Very impressed with the focus on safety and security. I would say that we are long overdue on vestibules. That was a big push when I came on board about 5 years ago. A lot of districts are already making that upgrade. Those are very important because no individual should be able to go directly into a classroom once they're run into a school. I think our access systems are a good first step, but I challenge anybody, sitting in one of the offices to try and go tackle an individual who runs directly into a classroom. That should not be the case with that. I think it's also good to see that we're maintaining the tax rate with this portfolio too. Some of the comments we're starting to hear is that, the project list on the levy is different than what it was on the bond. I would say, yes, it is, and to me, that's a good thing. That means that we heard the community, from how they voted with the bond. We took the time to get new data and to get new voices on it, and I wouldn't expect with new data and new voices to come up with the exact same project list. So I think we should be celebrating, that there are some differences between the two campaigns. I think that's a big positive. Looking at that, me personally, I don't see how you could be against the bond and against the levy too. The bond was for, replacing buildings. We're the community, not interested in that. So at this point, we have to invest in those buildings. You can't really have it both ways. We have to do one or the other at this point. I always keep in mind I'm a parent first before a board member. Very frequently, my children ask me, why are we in portables? Why can't we have academic facilities or athletic facilities like Central Kitsap? And I have to explain to them, well, that community has, made a choice to invest in education. And it's a difficult conversation to convince them that argument is not willing to do that. So I'm looking forward to this investment in the community. Really, what is this going to get us? Like the committee members mentioned, it's just a start. This is about, a 5-year plan. We have to make this investment to keep the current facilities running and operational, safe and effective, because we have some really big capital needs coming up down the line. If you look at North Kitsap High School, you're talking maybe $400 million. We can't be tackling every single school, replacing them at the same time to go do that. Again, really appreciate the work of the committee. I think they've done a fantastic job, and it's good to see that this capital levy plan has the buy-in of support from the entire community. I would just mention one more thing. We didn't mention the staff. We talked a lot about students. We owe it to our staff to give them safe, healthy working environments. They should not be working in some of the conditions that they're working right now. We have to make that investment for our staff. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again for the presentation. And I don't think we have any more questions at this time on the board. All right. So we will move forward with 6.3, Resolution 7124, levy proposition. A motion is needed to discuss Resolution 7124, levy proposition. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Stacy. We need a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ed. The motion to discuss Resolution 7124, levy proposition has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
I think the presentation was so thorough that we got our answers, questions answered as we went along, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think this is timely and put together very well with that. And with the community meeting, I was able to attend and do different things. So this resolution, I think, really speaks to the voice of our community. And I feel strongly and good about putting it forward in a way that's gonna, be best for our community, our staff, and our students. And resolution really takes that voice and does what I think we need to do to move forward in such a good way for our students and our staff.
Okay, well, if there is no further discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All opposed to the motion? The motion passes with a vote of 5 for, and 0 against. All right, we will now move on to 6.4, the OESD lease agreement. A motion is needed to discuss the OESD lease agreement.
I so move.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ed. All right, the motion to discuss the OESD lease agreement has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion? I'm not hearing any comments or? All right. If there's no discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, all opposed to the motion? None, and the motion passes with a vote of 5 for and 0 against. And 6.5, Poulsbo Middle School Building 2 addition, additional services request. A motion is needed to discuss the Poulsbo Middle School Building 2 addition, additional services request. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Thank you, Ed. We need a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bev. The motion to discuss the Poulsbo Middle School Building 2 addition, additional services request has been made and seconded. Are there any new comments for discussion?
Well, I actually asked Mike more about that, and he said that, there has been money allocated in the original budget to cover some of these overdrafts, or whatever we call it. Yeah, so I'm glad that, that was thought of early on, so we're not reworking the whole budget to cover this.
Yes.
So are these funds coming from contingencies?
That's what Mike, is Mike still there? That's what Mike told me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
And did you have any other questions?
No, that's fine.
Okay. I don't see Mike.
Sorry, Mike, you have done your time at the podium, but, do we have any idea, just to get an idea on the contingency amount and like what this leaves us with? I'm sorry if it's in here and I missed it, I'm just trying to, I don't know that.
The contingency is generally 5% of the whole, but there's contingencies at different parts of the budget, so it's like a $12 million contract-ish. So you're talking $500,000, $600,000. There have been a few change orders, but we're still within the budget.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Verifying the numbers on that.
No problem.
Helps me out.
And I know there's been questions about when the project will be finished, and I'm sure we'll just continue to get updated. I think it's probably too soon to, I mean, we don't know exact dates.
Question on that, have there been any change orders issued on, this is a question for Mike.
Oh. Sorry about that.
Have there been any change orders issued, on the middle school, construction, or are these, like material cost changes, or?
So I think there've been a couple change orders on the project. One of them was early, and it had to do with some of the way that they did the piping around when they were doing the foundation. And then they changed one recently with
It was stairs,
Yeah.
it was.
ingress and egress out of an area of the building. Too small. They haven't been significant enough to create any trouble, for the overall project.
So we're able to cover all those with the contingencies?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's contingency and the fact that it also came in under bid. So originally the project came in under bid, we were able to add some alternates that had been bid, but we're still good.
Any more discussion?
You know, I just appreciate that they're gonna actually finish that school too. once it's done, so that security for the kids will be important.
All right, if there's no more discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 An aye. And no opposed. The motion passes with a vote of 5-4 and 0 against. And now I will turn it over, management reports will be turned over to Interim Superintendent Rachel Davenport and staff to answer any questions the board has regarding the materials provided.
Thank you. Our first is our management report, budget status, it's our monthly status report. You've had time to review it. Mike actually did a really good job, for an hour before this meeting on a budget hearing, where he referenced this report, a few times. Any questions?
I got some questions as we go along.
Our next is our discipline and corrective action report. Craig Berry, is, here as well to talk a little bit about that if needed. It's one of our reports that we do annually, looking at our discipline data, disaggregating it. It's different, shaped reportables. It's something that our principals, building administrator, and central office administrators dig into with their leadership teams and look at offenses, consequences and actions. Any questions on this report? Our next one is 7.3, and Mike alluded to it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the levy resolution. Something that, we, as a board, you get to do is appoint a committee both for, now that the resolution is passed, for the levy and against the levy. And to date, when we put this information out, once the agenda was posted, we did have 3 people, put their names forward to be on the against committee, and that is, in order of receipt of their request. It was Stacy Schmeckel, Kim Gerlach, and Scott Hendon for the against, for that. So, once we have those names, we'll have them on, and for you to, send to our auditor's office. Questions on that?
So we don't have any ideas for the school committee this time?
We don't have for the chair, not yet, so, as soon as we have, the chair options for, yes, we'll put those to you as well. Mike, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I'll start over.
Yeah, go ahead.
The committee members, do they need to be, residents of the North Kitsap School District?
Yeah, that is something Steve Gardner, so that's something that the auditor's office would look at and, make a decision on. When we put those names forward, it's their decision on that. So if there's an issue, correct, so if there's an issue with any of those, then he would, let us know that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
We had 27 people on the committee, right?
The facilities advisory?
Seems like we might be able to find 3 people who think this is a good idea.
And then 7.4 is Kingston Middle School, domestic boiler replacement, and, I know Mike is here, and if you have questions on that, it is our, it's a typical replacement, it's nothing that is, I guess, I'd say out of the ordinary, but it's detailed in there, and Mike would be able to answer questions around that.
All right, we will move forward with our second public comment period. And it looks like we have Stacy Schmeckel.
Good evening again. I'd like to thank the members that are here from the FAC and Mike, thank you. I am surprised that Reed Gillig and Jim are not here as their jobs are directly related to facilities and the levy. But my question tonight is, where's the data? While the presentation was pretty, it provided very few details for the public to know and wasn't available until hours before tonight's meeting. Where's the data? Where are the reports to the board that show Gordon Elementary needs a playground and vestibule over the addition proposed in the bond just months ago? Where is the data that Wolfley only needs paint and sealant when just months ago the majority of you, Stacy, Brianne, Mike, told us that the school needed to be demolished? When I served on the pro levy committee in 2014, we had a proposed tax rate between 2.83 to 2.96, and we had a current bond. I hear it over and over tonight. The deciding factor for you was a tax rate. Where's the data that that's what everybody wants? Where are the surveys, and why didn't the board review them prior to your approval tonight? Mike, you asked why I would want to be on the opposition committee, and that if I had a bond, I was opposing the bond. I opposed the bond because I wanted the majority of those projects to go into a levy. Why should the taxpayers pay interest and fees on things that can be provided in a levy? Where was the data that what you needed under that bond was legitimate? Now you tell us Pearson can be built on the same property. But just months ago, you yourself, Mike, told me that was not feasible. In fact, it wasn't just months ago, it was mere weeks ago you reiterated that again. So where is the data? We're using predominantly the same FAC numbers. You've added additional numbers, thank you. But the same core group is still there. We're using the same firm who was the biggest financial supporter of the bond. Where have you come back and said, oops, we changed our mind? We need data. I believe you're making a decision tonight, or made it already now, to move forward with something you're unprepared to move forward with. Please give your constituents and voters the opportunity to have the data necessary before putting forth a levy. And let's put forth a levy that meets the needs and safety of all students. Thank you.
Okay, so, the meeting is officially adjourned and it is 7:52. Thank you.
She did.